Are you for real? So let's talk about this because so much of our national conversation, which is not a conversation about immigration, is driven by people who could not care less about immigrants.
We were heartbroken because we have a daughter that could very well be in that situation. Our heart goes out to the family. I just can't even imagine.
Often people want to say, why aren't you talking about the border crisis? Or why aren't you talking about it in this way? Well, we're talking about it. They just don't like how we're talking about it because it's not a border crisis. It's an imperialism crisis.
Here we have breaking news regarding the murder of a 22-year-old nursing student from the University of Georgia. The body of Laken Riley was found late yesterday after she did not come home from a run. Police found her body in a wooded area near the UGA campus in Athens. They say she did have visible injuries. And now a 26-year-old man is in custody, Jose Antonio Ibarra.
This is a climate crisis. It's a trade crisis. And also, it's a carceral crisis because, as I have already said, even during this term and this president, our immigration system is based and designed on our carceral system.
Jose Antonio Ibarra was arrested on murder charges a short time ago, and we are learning Ibarra is not a U.S. citizen and that he might be from Venezuela. Remember, President Biden offered 500,000 Venezuelan migrants legal status and work permits, and there is a major concern across the country about many of those migrants belonging to dangerous Venezuelan gangs. If this suspect turns out to be a Venezuelan criminal, the crisis at the southern border is about to take on an entirely new dimension. Fox News at Night with in-depth coverage, 11 o'clock in the East, 8 o'clock in the West. Now back to Hannah.
Those are some of the problems. What about the solution? Well, number one, our solutions need to be rooted in foreign policy because our interventionist history in foreign policy and history over decades of destabilizing regions drive people to. But people don't want to have that conversation. Secondly, let's talk about the climate crisis because the U.S. has disproportionately contributed to the total amount of emissions that is causing a planetary climate crisis right now. But who is bearing the brunt of that? It's actually not us. We help create the problem, but disproportionately, it's the global South. It's South Asia, it's Latin America that are going to be experiencing the floods, wildfires, and droughts in a disproportionate way, which ding, ding, ding has already started a migration crisis.
You know, these are the kinds of things that no matter what side you've chosen politically, we all wish that we never, ever had to have these conversations, right? But the problem is there are those of us like you and me who recognize that we're in big, big trouble and that these horrible stories are not only going to keep happening, but they're going to happen more and more and more frequently if we do not do something immediately. 10 years ago. And then there's the other side, people that are somehow able to continue just denying reality and really worse than deny it, right? They convince themselves that anyone who could dare be concerned is a racist or a xenophobe or some other vitriolic thing that just doesn't make any sense. They can't possibly actually be someone that just wants laws enforced and just wants lives saved, right? It's crazy. But the problem I have with all this is no matter how tolerant you think you are, no matter how accepting or how welcoming or how humanitarian you think your position is, what we have, whatever you think it is just not at all sustainable. And another problem I have is, guys, we just don't learn lessons in this country, man. 8 years ago, when Trump was first running for president, the same kind of thing was in the news. You had Kate Steinle in California who was senselessly killed walking down the dock, walking down the pier by an illegal immigrant who should not have been. We ignored it. People convinced themselves that it was some sort of anecdotal one-off thing that was not important. And here we are again. Same story. I mean, almost the same exact story. And I think even a completely corrupted leftist would guess that this same story has happened hundreds, not probably thousands of times in between. And still, we keep sending people to Washington stupid enough to say this kind of stuff out loud.
The idea that Republicans, in order to win an election, say we need to hermetically seal the border when they know that that is economic self-sabotage to the U.S. economy. And they are saying, let's do it anyway. And to compensate for the negative effects, we're going to allow and throw people's kids into factories. That is what they are doing in rolling back child labor laws while being as xenophobic and anti-immigrant as they are. And while ginning up this false narrative about this being a crisis. And by the way, by then also preventing and blocking any legislation that would provide not just a path to citizenship, but a path to work papers, a path to allowing people who want to work to be paired with American businesses who need people to work. And I mean, there is not only no moral calculation, there is no economic calculation, there is no logical calculation, there is only a political calculation. And that political calculation is we are going to keep whining about it. We are going to keep pretending this is a crisis while contributing to actual problems. And then we're going to block the solution so that we can campaign on it over and over and over. And we can call it caravans, we can call it migrant crises, we can call it family separation, and they will just recycle it over and over and over again in order to gin up, just so much animosity and destruction in this country and racism in this country, because that's the only thing that the Republican Party even is standing on at this point.
Yeah, I mean, just like I said, man, just exactly what I said. Anyone who thinks that 10 million people in the span of just a few years is unsustainable, or anyone who thinks that a 22-year-old college student deserves to go on a jog without being murdered, or anyone who thinks that migrants should not be dying in our desert on their way to become a second-class economic slave in the most powerful nation on earth, is just a racist, xenophobic bigot who doesn't really even care about immigrants. They just want to own the libs. I mean, come on. Even as unintelligent and disingenuous as AOC really is, there's no chance that she actually believes that. She, like the rest of her open border supporting colleagues, they just don't want to wind up in a conversation about all of the negative possibilities, about the actual things that happen from their policies. They don't want to talk about the risks associated with their dream utopia. If they can just brand the people that oppose them as racist or dangerous or just somehow beneath being recognized, then they never have to publicly confront the crime. They don't have to talk about the deaths, the destruction, and they don't have to talk about American decline, right? They can just pretend like everything is great. There is no crisis. It's all under control. And she's the proof that it's all under control, because if it wasn't under control, she would be the first one down to the border in one of Hillary's old pantsuits crying and trying to save the kids, break them out of cages. But here is the crazy thing. She's a democratic socialist, right? They're the people who pretend to care most about workers' rights and about the rich paying their fair share. Yet she claims that we have to keep the border broken, essentially, or the economy is going to crumble. And let me know in the comments what you actually hear when she says that. But what I hear is her saying that we need cheap slave labor in order to keep the machine moving, right? She's alleging that our economy is dependent on people that we can underpay and not provide any meaningful benefits. And if that's the case, then maybe I need to become a real democratic socialist who just wants to burn down the system, because something needs to give. I mean, there's no way that we are dependent on it. But anyway, these people want to convince you that everything is under control, that there's nothing to see here. But if you don't believe that, then anything that isn't under control, well, that's only not under control because of Donald Trump. It's all Trump's fault. Well, sadly, we know that none of that is true. We got a young man from Venezuela that crossed illegally through El Paso in 2022. And now he's suspected of murdering an innocent girl for apparently no reason.
We do have a lot to get to here for your Friday night. Thanks for being with us. I'm Wendy Corona.
And I'm George Estevez. Let's get right to the latest on this breaking news. The man police say murdered Laken Riley could be booked into the Clark County Jail at any minute. They arrested Jose Ibarra tonight and tell us he didn't know Riley and that it was just a crime of opportunity.
Today, we learned the name of that victim. We know she is Laken Riley. She's a Cherokee County native who her old school superintendent called a shining light.
Classes at UGA will resume on Monday. They were canceled today and this weekend. Riley Sorority is hosting a vigil for her Monday afternoon.
We do have live Team 2 coverage tonight from Athens, starting with Channel 2's Courtney Francisco. Courtney, you're standing by where investigators have been searching that suspect's apartment for hours now.
Yes, Wendy, and police say Jose Ibarra lived in the first floor of this apartment building that you see right here, where police are standing guard. This complex still crawling with investigators at this hour. This is where police arrested Ibarra this afternoon. And just hours ago, we learned what led them here, why they think he's the killer, and how they think he did it. Past dark, police pulled evidence from Jose Ibarra's apartment.
I think it's really opened our eyes.
University of Georgia students showed up at a press conference Friday night to hear the latest themselves, and they learned lead investigators believe Ibarra randomly chose to kill Laken Riley.
He did not know her at all. I think this was a crime of opportunity.
She was 22, a nursing student. He is 26, from Venezuela.
He did not attend school at the University of Georgia. This was an individual who woke up with bad intentions on that day. This was just a crime of opportunity, no motive.
UGA Police Chief Jeff Clark says his team started investigating the crime just after 12 noon Thursday, after Riley's friend reported her missing, said she left for a jog around UGA's intramural fields and never came back. 30 minutes later, police say an officer found her in the woods, beaten unconscious. Efforts to revive her did not work. Fast forward 24 hours Friday, federal, state, and city investigators were searching a unit at this apartment complex less than 2 miles from the crime scene on UGA's campus. That's where they found Ibarra.
The evidence suggests that this was a solo act. We took 3 or 4 people in custody. However, we're only going to arrest 1.
Police say campus security cameras helped confirm he was the killer.
I think we definitely need to be more aware, like walking together.
Students did leave together after hearing the update, saying they're changed forever.
Just like a wave of sadness, and I for sure think everyone's going to be more cautious.
Ibarra faces several charges, including murder, kidnapping, hindering a 911 call, and concealing the death of another. Reporting live in Athens, Courtney Francisco, WSB Tonight.
It's quite something, too, seeing all the students there, Courtney, now just using that buddy system even more, looking out.
What do you even say to that, man? I mean, that is so sad. What do you even say to that? Who knows how many lives are ruined and changed forever just because of bad policy, right? And it's not the first, this is not going to be the last, and there's still going to be people out there that question the character and the motives of anyone who could possibly give a shit about that young girl or anybody like her. And the White House, we'll see if they even make a peep out of this, but I think they're probably too terrified to even go near it. It's a white victim and an illegal suspect. So my guess is they're going to stick their head in the sand about as deep as they possibly can. They've actually finally been getting challenged by the press on the border, which, I mean, it kind of makes sense. It took the press 3 years to confirm Hunter's laptop. It took them 3 years to confirm that Russiagate was a hoax. So they're right on track. 3 years to recognize the border isn't some right-wing conspiracy. But, you know, here is the interesting corner that Biden has backed himself into, right? He virtue signaled his willingness to destroy all of Trump's so-called racist policies. And now, with everybody worried about keeping their jobs and stopping Trump again, they're all quietly using the same policies and really changing some of their policies regarding asylum seekers, but they're in a situation where they can't even admit what they're trying to do, which is exactly why it will never ever work. You got to be in it or out. You either do it or you don't. There's no doing it secretly, right? And I'll show you everyone's second favorite diversity hire, try to dance around this in a second. But first, guys, if you haven't already, join the channel, help us to grow. And this is going to be an incredibly important year for conservative voices, which only makes it that much more difficult to make sure conservative voices are heard. So help us out by liking, subscribing, commenting, and most importantly, sharing the channel. Just a tiny, tiny little click from you, but it really, really makes a huge difference. Take a look at poor KJP.
Else President Biden has promised is a more humane border policy than Trump. So why would he even be considering now a border policy that is more similar to Trump?
What border policy are you talking about?
Axios is reporting that the legal authority Biden is considering using powered Trump's Muslim ban and similar sweeping restrictions at the border.
I'm not going to get into or comment on individual policy option that's being speculated right now. As I said before, no decisions have been made. We want to make sure, the president has been very clear, he wants to make sure that our country is safer.
Safer for who? It's not safer for Laken Riley, I promise you that. It's certainly not safe for people invited to die in the desert, in our rivers. And what a dodge, man. She calls it speculation, right? She says no decision's been made, which admits it, by the way. Admits that they're at least considering it. If she would have answered with a filibuster, it would have been a lot better for her, because Ducey's got more.
On the consideration of these new executive orders for the border, what changed between the time President Biden said, "We are a nation who says if you want to flee and you're freeing oppression, you should come," and now?
I don't understand. What do you mean? Your question, I don't get.
As a candidate, President Biden was telling people to come to the border. So what has changed since then?
I don't have the context of this quote that you're giving me, but what I will say is this.
Does it have the context? What context do you think could explain a presidential candidate inviting people to our border? Ducey went a little easy. He didn't invite people to come to the border. The old man angrily said that we should surge the border.
I would, in fact, make sure that we immediately surge to the border. All those people are seeking asylum. They deserve to be heard. That's who we are. We're a nation that says if you want to flee and you're fleeing oppression, you should come.
There is no context, man. This is all agenda driven, all part of the globalist liberal plan. They can blame Trump, they can blame Congress, they can blame whoever the hell they want. The facts are clear, right? If the president of the United States wanted to act on the border, wanted to protect American citizens, wanted to enforce existing laws, he absolutely could. We have every possible thing we need to be doing a whole lot more than we are now. If we wanted to protect the border, you could. If he cared about his constitutional duty, if he cared about overdose deaths, if he cared about human trafficking, if he cared even about doing the right thing, then that's what he would do. But these people only care about power. They only care about agenda. They do not care about you. And it has gotten so bad that regular people, they can't ignore it anymore. They cannot support it anymore. They see what's going on. Even as far north and as blue as New York City, they see the crime, they see the resources drying up, they see illegal immigrants living in fancy hotels for free while they struggle to keep the heat on. They see innocent nursing students getting senselessly murdered, and they've had enough, man.
A lot of environmental justice provisions to clean air in our schools and also to implement climate policy in the education space. In 2020, the CARES Act passed, and in 2021, we started to see a lot of different...
My name is Jonathan David Rinaldi. I'm running for Congress against AOC. Get out of here.
That's the way it always goes at one of these things, man. No one rebuts the guy's frustration. No one even comments on the guy's frustration. AOC stands there like a terrified freaking mute. You know, the mindless mob just shouts the guy down and then claps like a bunch of trained seals after he gets removed, so they can go on hearing about how they're going to save the world by eating bugs and give their last dollars to someone who broke the law just to come here. It's insane. I mean, what do you even say about it, man? But like I said, they're not all like that. People are waking up. You know, that guy may have felt alone in that room, but I assure you, man, he is not alone. There are millions and millions and millions of people who can't ignore what's going on anymore. But guys, we've got to get rid of these people, man. November is so freaking important, right? We have got to send a message. It's our last chance. You know, this might be our last opportunity to send that message, but that's just my take, guys. Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you haven't already, make sure to like, comment, subscribe. Most importantly, share the channel. I'll see you in the next one.